Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strength Students podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Carty.
And I'm your other co-host, Nick Scopoletti.
And we're joined today with Brian Carroll. What's up, Brian?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's awesome to have you. Been looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it.
So, Brian, for those people that don't know you, give a little description of who you are, what you do, and where you're out of right now.
I'm about 5'9". I used to be about 5'10" or 5'11". I've got hazel eyes. I'm about one or 2 inches shorter than I used to be due to all the loads on the squat. Now, jokes aside, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. Been here all my life. Started powerlifting in 1999. I've been strength training since probably age of 15. Benched my first 300 in high school in 11th grade. Did my first bench competition my senior year, bench 325 raw. And then ever since then, I've been a student of the game and lifted in multiple different weight classes. And we could get into that a little bit if you'd like me to kind of talk about what I've done in powerlifting. But
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So one of the things I noticed, I read your book, 1020 Life, and we'll get into that. But you have squatted over 1,000 pounds in 3 different weight classes.
So all in all 53 times in competition, which there's 2 other guys that may be close or exceed. I don't think Chuck's done it more than 53 times, Vogelpool. Dave Hoff may have, but the problem is the records and the person who's kept track of the numbers on Powerlifting Watch didn't start until 2007, and I'd been squatting over 1,000 for a couple years by then, and so did other people. So it's kind of hard to tell. It's one of those things, just like raw lifting is a new thing, and people like to say that people did these numbers back in the day. There was no such thing as raw lifting until 2006 when it kicked off. So that's kind of a side note for you, but I'm up there as far as the most squats over 1,000 pounds with maybe 2 other people.
Wow, impressive, man. Yeah, I know you hold multiple world, national, state records. So one of the things, I guess we'll start from the beginning. What got you into training? What got you into the gym and started weightlifting?
Well, I was a little kid in 9th grade. I was only about 5 foot tall, 100 pounds. And
oh my God.
I played baseball and I was quite undersized. And I started lifting and to put on size. And by 10th grade, I was 160. So I put on a lot of size, a lot of strength. And, from there, I fell in love with it and, did a little bit of bodybuilding for a bit. Didn't really like it. I liked eating. I didn't like, the tanning and everything was fine. And the posing on stage was fine. But all the things that you had to do to get there was not so fun. And then for them to say, hey, we don't like the way you look, or we don't like your skin tone or your hair or your calves or your biceps. I just didn't like it. But I'd already done a couple bench press competitions prior to my bodybuilding time, so it was easy for me to go right back into powerlifting. And then one of my mentors at the time, Skip Sylvester, one day I was in the gym because I was doing big weight. I did a 425 press with the pause back then. I squatted 600 in knee wraps, and I deadlifted close to 600 just in a belt. And that's what you did if you were a gym rat. Powerlifters, they put on powerlifting gear, and they went and did a powerlifting meet. Then that's the way it happened. There was no raw lifting. So he came up to me one day, my mentor. He said, "Hey, you're going to do a meet come March of next year." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "I'll show you everything you need to know, and the rest is history." Ordered my powerlifting gear and did my first meet, my first full meet in March of 2003.
And you were how old when you did your first meet?
I was 20.
You were 20. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
How long
so
did you...
I did bench only meets when I was 17 and 18. Took a little bit of break, did bodybuilding, and then came back. And I started powerlifting in 2002. Did my first meet in 2003.
Okay. So I guess cumulatively, like, how long were you powerlifting before you did your first meet?
That's kind of a tough question because as soon as I got done with bodybuilding in 2001, I went back to the gym with a newfound tenacity. It really trained my back and my legs. So really, it's been my whole life since high school. I just didn't really squat or deadlift very much in high school, but soon thereafter, I did get into squatting and deadlifting and rowing and chinning and all the things that you don't necessarily see on a beach body, or at least when you're looking in the mirror, right? You see your chest, your biceps, your abs. So I had that down pretty good, but I had some weak links.
Damn, man. So you skipped a couple leg days back in the day, or what?
I did. What was odd is I had a natural affinity for the squat. I mean, I remember I would squat sometimes once every couple of months, and I'd still be able to do 30 reps or so at 225 in high school. So I had some natural ability there that I'll admit to for sure. And I remember shortly into squatting, I was squatting 405 for 10 or 12 reps and just a cheap little gym belt. So I had some natural ability and some smart training helped me along the way and some good guidance for sure.
Yeah,
Purple Monster, you guys like these?
I like the red. I'm a red fan.
I like the rehabs.
Yes, rehabs are good. I like the peach tea with lemonade. That's a really good one.
Yeah,
I didn't even know they had that
dope.
one. Shit, well, that's what we're getting after this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Brian, you're known for your book, 10/20 Life. Could you explain a little bit what does that mean? What is 10/20 Life?
Sure. So I had a lot of success even before I saw Dr. McGill in my subsequent injury, but there were some holes in my game, and I'd been working on a book for a couple of years. And it kind of stalled. I never went back and really went to finish it until I got hurt. Then I learned quite a bit more from Dr. McGill, and that kind of brought me full circles, not just a lifter, but a coach. Mm-hmm. Because I realized some of the holes in my game, with lifting form, pushing too hard, not letting off the gas every once in a while, and just being more aware of being an athlete 24/7 in and out of the gym. So actually, when I got back on track with my lifting, after seeing Dr. McGill in 2013, I finished my book. And 10/20 Life stands for 10 and 20 weeks at a time for a lifetime of positive momentum in training and in life. So we all know that progress is not one of those things where you do, I squatted 300 last year, so I'm going to squat 400 next year. It's not linear. Progress is never linear with anything, with relationships, with your job. Just because you increase your salary by 20% your first 3 years does not mean in the next 6 years it's going to be 60% more, right?
Right.
So it would be nice if it did.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
It has a little bit of beginner's luck,
right?
And usually, what a lot of studies have found, and I can't cite them right now, but a lot of smart people have said that most of your progress in anything, your learning, your training, whatever knowledge you're trying to incur, 50% of it takes place in the first couple of years. That's your biggest gain. So the problem isn't getting strong starting off or getting stronger. It's maintaining that strength and sustaining it for a lifetime and always improving year after year after year. And that's what a lot of people don't get. They think that, okay, well, I'm following this conjugate system or this other system, or I see how strong this person is. There's a lot more factors just to getting really strong, because we all know of people that have come out of the gates in every single sport. I can name you people in every sport that came out deadly good, and then 3 years they're done because they've tapped and used up all their athleticism. So this is a sustainable approach for longevity.
Well, we also kind of live in this age of, the 30-day fixes or 60-day fixes or 90-day fixes. Whether it be it could be weight loss, it could be strength, how to improve your overhead squat or snatch or deadlift.
How to add an inch to your arms.
Yeah, yeah.
You nailed it, because there's a difference between good coaches, good lifters, good marketers, and good businessmen. Good marketers will come up with a great program, 30 days to 10% body fat, or 30 days to an inch on your arms. But we all know that's not sustainable, and it's just like saying, hey, Brian, show me your weight cut protocol. I want to drop 10 pounds for this weekend. Well, that's only going to stay as long as you keep the water off you, then it's going to come right back. That could make a lot of money if I sold it that way, but I'm not going to sell out and do some kind of program I know that isn't going to benefit someone just for the sake of, I'm a big marketer, I made a push and made $10,000 this week, and I'm not about that. It's about a lifelong approach.
Yeah.
I feel you, man. What is you know, you've been training a long time. What is your educational background at all? I know you're an LMT, correct? You're a licensed manual therapist. Right. Maybe you could go into that. I find that really interesting. I think that's a place where I think a lot of trainers I know are going kind of in that direction. Guys that, you know, are in the strength field are like, oh, I could also do this licensed manual therapy. So if you go into that.
So I was working at Coca-Cola for quite a few years. And I knew, the money's great, but that was probably the start of my back injury.
Oh, no
Hustling
shit.
At 19, 18, 19, 20 years old, hauling ass, lifting it on my route sometimes, going to squat and deadlift during my route and going to finish it because I was so fast. But I knew that was not a sustainable approach. I didn't want to do that job forever because I saw some of the 20-year veterans that worked for Coca-Cola, and they were hunched over and beat up and beaten down. So I went to community college for a little bit, didn't like it, didn't really know what I wanted to do, took some writing classes that ended up coming in handy later, but I just kind of fizzled out and stopped going and figured I wanted to go to some kind of a trade school of some sort, and massage therapy caught my eye, so in 2002 I went there. It took me about a year and a half while still working full-time to accomplish that, and I came out with a lot of anatomy and physiology knowledge that has really helped me to this day. As far as certifications, I did work as a personal trainer to the layperson for a while, so you need the basic certifications just to cover your ass for liability, you know. But as far as a CS, or any of those other things, I don't have any of those. I have a School of Hard Knocks degree with 20 years of lifting under my belt, and some tutelage from some of the best ever, one being Dr. McGill. Yeah. So the biggest certificate of learning that I can tell you will be out in about a month, and that's the gift of injury with Dr. McGill.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've always said, you know, like I was an exercise science background, and I have a few certs and things, but the learning, A, it never stops, and B, I think it started once I actually graduated, once I actually started training people and going to seminars and learning, you know, like we just saw, again, we saw Stuart McGill, we brought him up a lot, but we saw him and went to his lectures and his hands-on. We were like, I need to know all of this stuff. Like, that's when it starts. For me, a degree is cool, but it's not the end all be all. That's definitely for sure.
It's definitely a good start, and I don't knock education. I think everyone should have an education, depending on what they want to do. And you know, I've learned quite a bit, you know, just by doing things right, wrong, and you know, correcting them along the way, and having good mentors in my life. So it's not to say that I might not go back to school at some point and sharpen up on a few things that I may need to know going forward, because this book with Dr. McGill is going to take me places that just a powerlifting or strength training book will not.
Right.
How old are you, Brian?
Oh, yeah, I should have named that earlier when I was talking about my eyes, right? I'll be 36 at the end of the month.
Okay, cool.
Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah.
So in 1020 Life, you say, you know, it's 1020 Life. It's not a program. And you say you'll never need a program, it's in quotations, ever again.
Right.
So if you could just go into that, why do you say that you don't need another program? Why is it?
Well, it's kind of a play on words, semantics a little bit too, because I state above that this is not a program. But a lot of the other books out there are programs. This is a philosophy. I give you parameters, 5 really solid principles or parameters that will help you be able to sustain strength for life and do things the right way, because I did things a lot of the wrong, you know, many things wrong my time. And so it's one of those things that, for one, it's a philosophy and approach, and I give you the parameters. And 2, this isn't just a template that you recycle over and over. This is a customizable, comprehensive book, not just for your training, but for your warm-up too. Because what's good for you may be terrible for you. So in the book, Gift of Injury, we talk about one athlete's blessing could be another athlete's undoing as far as assistance work and approach and everything. So everything needs to be individualized. Not to say that, you know, any of these other programs or books can't help someone, but it's not custom. So you run it a couple of times, then what? Well, you got to start changing things. Then you're left to your own devices. I gave you parameters to diagnose your weak points, how to warm up properly, have an off season, have a pre-contest, have downtime, be as balanced as possible when you're not pushing towards a competition or any kind of event. And it basically gives you parameters that would have helped a younger Brian Carroll a lot, 20 years ago.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the deload, right? Like the dreaded deload. Everyone thinks I got to go balls to the wall all the time. And with your program, it's 2 weeks. I believe it's 2 weeks, and then every week is a right with your philosophy. See, I already fucked it up. Every 3 weeks, every third week is that deload. So for some people, they're thinking that's it, 2 weeks, and then I just take a deload. So if you could go into that, because I feel like it gets demonized in a way. People are like, well, I'm going to get weak. I'm going to get weaker.
Right.
It's a week. It's not your rest of your life,
Well, here's the thing. There's flat earthers right now, aren't there? You see it pop back up.
There are, yeah.
Basketball players, okay? There's really no solid debate on the other side, really, that can say that overtraining does not exist. It's bunk. We know that overtraining exists. Mm-hmm. You give something so much stimuli over and over, it will break. We know that. That's a fact. So people that say you don't need a deload, there's no such thing as overtraining, they're just uneducated. And it may have worked for them because some people are touched by the hand of God and gifted. Some people, no matter what they do, will have success in spite of themselves, right?
Right.
But the problem is most people will fall within the bell curve. Let's say 70% of people are not going to be like that freaky outlier.
No.
So the problem is when someone's a good marketer and they can show that they're the exception to the rule and not the rule, it can start swaying people. If they're convincing, they have a good copywriter that writes things just right to convince someone, right? The problem is overtraining does exist. My back is living proof of it. When we powerlift, we create microfractures in our bones, and in particular our back. Over time, excessive loading will create macrofractures from those microfractures and end up looking like my back did, which you guys probably saw at the summit. If not, I'll send you a picture of the MRI here in a little bit, and you can post it up with the podcast if you want.
Oh, yeah, that would be up, actually.
Yeah, so it does exist, and pushing too hard eventually, it may be 5 weeks for you, maybe 6 weeks for you, but why not stay ahead of the curve before you're absolutely forced to shut it down or you strain a tissue, to stay ahead of the curve and always err on the side of caution? I mean, what's the rush? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get weak. You're not going to get weaker. Nope. From a week of lighter load to sharpen up technique, sharpen up your mental game, and nothing else to make you motivated for the next 2 weeks where you're going to go heavier. Now, with that said, I'm not saying that you can't ever go 4 weeks without a deload or 3 weeks without a deload. But the problem is people will push the envelope if you give them too much area open to interpret, and they end up hurting themselves. So 3 weeks is a good rule of thumb, and what I do just about all the time now. Occasionally I'll go a fourth week if my intensity's down a little bit, maybe in an off-season type setting. But these are parameters that work, and I suggest considering a deload, especially if you're one of those flat earthers.
One of the things, so we mentioned overtraining, right? You just mentioned overtraining, which is perfect. Leads into what I wanted to ask. And this is something that I personally have struggled with. I lifted with friends of mine in high school and college, guys I grew up with. Right. One of them was a freak of nature. He played in the NFL for like 3 years, was 300 pounds, had a 36-inch vert. Me and him are not cut from the same cloth, right? We're boys. I used to lift with him and try to do what he can do, right? I would try to explain to him, dude, I'm smoked this week. I can't. And what you say in your book is how do you gauge either in yourself or an athlete, what's the difference between listening to your body or being a pussy? Because when I would always tell him, dude, I'm done. He's like, being a pussy, man. Granted, we're 19 years old at the time, but I was like, dude, I'm shot. I can't do this. So if you could go into that for us.
I talk about the story of George St. Pierre. Are you guys MMA fans at all?
Yeah, we absolutely know who he is. Yeah, we saw he was brought up too in Stuart McGill's slides at the conference as well.
Yeah, Stu said he has one of the strongest cores ever, and that's why he's able to throw those kicks and his punches so hard because of the core stiffness. So anyway, I talk about the story of Georges St. Pierre before he won the title and ended up never losing it once he won it, right? He ended up losing it one time to Matt Serra and then crushed him. So he didn't really have he was not without the belt for a long time. So 2000, I want to say around 2006 or something like that, Georges St. Pierre was a huge Matt Hughes fan, and they went to fight for the title, and Matt Hughes had the belt. Georges St. Pierre talked about how he couldn't look Matt Hughes in the eye because he went in there to lose. He knew that he was not mentally prepared to beat him. So after he went in and got armbarred in the first round, he went to see a sports psychologist, I believe, and worked through some issues. And the next 2 times they fought, he dominated Matt Hughes, just crushed him. I don't know if you guys remember the fight from 2007, but he made him look like a little kid. St. Pierre just demolished him. So my point to that is, you have to decide whether you're being a pussy or you're being smart. And being a pussy is talking yourself out of weights when there's no physical indicators telling you to back off for the day. If you don't have physical indicators and you don't know your body well enough to be able to look and say, hey, nothing feels good today, I need to back off. Or everything feels great, I need to go for it, according to what's on the program today. This is something that takes time, I think, and it took time for St. Pierre to really realize that, hey, the mental game does have a huge impact on the physical. But at the same time, if you're in training, always err on the side of caution. So, for instance, if something's feeling a little bit off in training, I'll back off that day. If it's a meet, I'll go for it. Now, if my leg's broken, I'm not going to go out and try to squat, in a meet. But I certainly, if something's really hurting in training, I'll back off. So there's definitely a difference between competition and training, but it takes time to know your body well, because we all know people that are hypochondriacs that think of something and all of a sudden that area hurts and then they back off. So it's more mental than physical. You have to know your body well and look for physical indicators, especially if you have an injury history. So if you know that you blew your back out a while ago and that's starting to hurt a little bit and you're scheduled to take a heavy set that day, everything has to be a give and take, pros and cons. The juice has to be worth the squeeze. If it isn't going to be worth it, back off. But if nothing's wrong and you're talking yourself out of a lift because you're scared of it, that's going to be something you're going to have to address. Because we all get a little scared when we're approaching a new weight or a weight that's beat us before. So it's all about visualization and beating the weight even before it happens. And that all changes if you're actually hurting or you're injured, right?
Absolutely.
And going into taking the foot off the gas too, would you agree that you need to consider the next couple days of training and the next week of training, that's all. There's going to be a certain amount of gas in the tank, I guess you could say, and there's no point in burning out the engine on that one day. You have next week, you have tomorrow's workout, you have next week's workout, you have the rest of the week that you have to worry about.
Life. You have the rest of your life, 10-20 life. So, yeah, everything's got to be a give and take. And everyone has a limited amount of athleticism in their body. Everyone has the gas tank that eventually, once it's gone, it's gone. Look at these fighters that all of a sudden just lose it overnight.
Yeah.
Roy Jones Jr., all of a sudden untouchable. Dude couldn't even land a solid punch on the guy for years and years, and one day he gets caught because he isn't moving quite as quick, and he's done. And he ends up losing 5 more fights. It's one of those things. Everyone has a limited amount of athleticism, and I think that's one of the components that makes a McGregor Money Mayweather fight interesting, because Mayweather hasn't had a fight in a couple years. He's older. He's much smaller. And we don't know if it's going to be one of those situations where someone loses it overnight or if he's going to go in there and just be untouchable. McGregor is also 12 years younger than him and has, a bunch of swag and momentum in his favor. So, again, that's getting a little bit off track, but that's one of the components, I think, that makes it interesting, being that he's an older fighter and everyone has a limited amount of athleticism in their tank.
Yeah, I was literally, as soon as you brought up Roy Jones Jr., I was going to be like, quick segue, I want to know what you think about the McGregor-Mayweather fight, but it's perfect, you already nailed it.
Being that the odds are so much in Mayweather's favor, I'm considering putting a little bit of money on McGregor.
Yeah.
Just because it could pay off big, but there's a lot of interesting things about that fight, and it's a rabbit hole to even talk about it. But the biggest things we need to consider is the big gloves, the 10-ounce gloves compared to 4. It's going to be way harder to hit Floyd with 10-ounce gloves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to slip through like a 4-ounce glove would. And the limited punching power from a 4-ounce glove to a 10-ounce glove. And the fact that McGregor cannot set up his big left hand with kicks or potential takedowns. So it's a way different game. If McGregor could throw kicks like a kickboxing match, it would be over in 5 seconds.
Right, yeah. That's what everyone says. Like, since it's boxing, it's Mayweather's world, he's going to win. That's why he's so heavily favored. But
what do you guys think? Same?
I mean, I want McGregor to win. I'm just going to say it. I don't like Floyd Mayweather. That's it. But he is one of the best boxers of all time, and that is his world. That's like if I came to your gym and tried to beat you in squat. Like, it just doesn't, doesn't make sense.
I think McGregor has a bigger chance. Yeah. Better chance than that, than you coming and out-squat me.
Oh, without a doubt. We're not even going to have that argument.
But what do you think?
Dude, if it was an MMA match, it'd be McGregor. If it was a boxing match,
he would murder him. He would murder him if it was an MMA match.
It's two different sports. They're not as close as people think.
Do you see what the stakes are as far as potential payouts for them two?
No.
Numbers. Huge. I believe McGregor stands to win $127 million, and Mayweather stands to win $450 million.
I was going to say Mayweather's they're both impressive, but I remember hearing that Mayweather's is off the charts.
$400 million. Are you kidding me?
That's fucking insane.
Dude, that's what we're making off this show right now. Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I wish.
We all wish.
We better get some better marketers, because that's what it's all about. It ain't about content anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's true, man. You got to learn how to market. But one more question, then we'll get to a break, and then we'll talk about your big injury. So you talked about the mental component. What do you do personally, or with people you train, or with anyone to get them there? Do you meditate? Do you have a certain thing you focus on? Anything like that?
Yeah, I do visualization, not just the night before or when I'm thinking about a big lift coming up that week, but right before I actually take the lift. If I'm getting my knees wrapped or whatever, I'm about to approach the bar, I see myself from an outside perspective, everything that I'm going to do in sequence, crushing the lift and walking away. I see myself not only doing the lift, but walking away from the lift successful, if that makes sense. So It's already a done deal that I'm going to hit the lift. I see everything as if I hit the lift and the way I look walking away, and most importantly in one piece after the big lift. Not everyone, in my experience, benefits from visualization because we're all different. Some people are stimulated by hearing, seeing. Some people can't really conjure up in their mind the visualization, and we're all quite different, the way we're made. So for those people, experience is the only way where they can really sharpen up the mental component of lifting, and that's been my case at times too, where I've just failed at a certain task so many times that I get all the butterflies out and I just go and I stop overthinking it. And I think that could be a part too with visualization. Maybe for the people it doesn't click with, they get in their own head and think too much about it, and it ends up screwing up the lift too. So did I answer the question, or did I go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And you could visualize your demise as well. If you get into your head and visualize the other way, that could happen as well.
Self-sabotage. It's a big component of a lot of champions out there that have, Flex Wheeler's talked about a lot of self-sabotage, where he never won a Mr. Olympia, and he should have. Probably the most gifted bodybuilder ever.
Yeah.
Besides maybe my friend Dexter Jackson, who's the winningest pro bodybuilder ever. But Flex talks about in his book that the week of the Olympia, he'd be in the best shape of his life and then eat the whole McDonald's menu and then panic and then try to sweat it all out. And of course, it isn't the same as being on a good diet for the whole 10 weeks or whatever.
That's like
self-sabotage. Yeah. People are scared of success too, just like they're scared of winning some, because they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, man. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about you coming back from a pretty serious injury to break your own squat record.
Yep. All right. Sounds good.
Want more of the Strength Students podcast? Go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher. Stitcher, I just met her.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here second half with Brian Carroll. We're going to talk a little bit about a big injury you had. Something we actually learned a little bit about at Perform Better from Stu McGill. He talked about it a little bit, but kind of want your perspective. We want your take on it. So just talk about this big injury that you had.
Okay. So in 2009, I was training for a police scholarship, police academy scholarship. It was a July morning in Florida, so you can imagine that it's very humid here, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm running full speed at about 270 pounds, getting ready to hurdle over a barricade, and about halfway through the obstacle course, and I went to run full speed and push off of it and keep going, and I slipped on the morning dew. My legs kicked up in the air, and I landed right on my ass. And I got up, and my legs weren't working anymore. I figured it was just due to fatigue or just, you get slammed or thrown down on the ground. It's a little hard to get up sometimes. Just your body's thrown off, right? It's just not, you suck, you incurred some damage, right? So I finished the course, and then my legs were just done. I laid on the ground in the police subdivisions or substations parking lot, and finally got in my truck and drove home. Back hurt pretty bad for a little bit, and then 2 months later I squatted 1,100 and deadlifted 800. But that was the start of some cumulative back injury that ended up really catching up to me in 2012 and 13. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd actually fractured my sacrum, and that's why my legs weren't working too well, and why I had so much pain right in that area, and localized at the sacrum there.
What when you kind of felt that pain and your legs not working, just things like that, what was your immediate thought process? Like, what was going through your head?
I thought I was just out of shape. I really thought I was just being a pussy and out of shape, and here I am, I fell on the ground, and I'm trying to get up and run the next 100 yards and then drag the dummy 50 yards and finish up. I just thought that, I'd kind of hit a wall as far as my stamina, but that wasn't it. I literally broke my back and just didn't know it at the time.
God damn.
So I don't think you can really question. You can question a lot of things about me, but probably not my mental toughness and being tough overall.
Well, but so then I guess my second question would be, that about yourself then, right? Your mental toughness and things like that. So no part of you is like, something else has to be wrong here. It can't just be an out of shape issue.
At the time, no, because I went on to squat 1,100 and then pull my first 800 in competition just a couple months later. So yeah, it did run through my mind a little bit that things could be off, but being that it went away and I was able to handle that much load, it kind of went to the back of my mind. But hindsight being 2020, of course, now that I see these alarming indicators that I had, yeah, I should have probably slowed down and went to see a professional.
And did you you might have said this right, did you see a physical therapist or doctor at all, or you just...
Okay, so we'll fast forward a little bit. My numbers went over 2,700 on the total at 275 during this time, and I started to slow down a little bit after I squatted 1,185 at 275. That was my biggest squat ever. I was also the biggest I ever was. I was over 290 at the time, and my deadlift started to regress. The day I squatted 1,185 for the biggest squat ever under 300 pounds, I really started to notice my leg dragging and a few different things going on with my back. And over the next year or so, my deadlift regressed a lot. And then finally, I went and got an MRI done on it.
Got you. And I think from what we understood, I remember from what Dr. McGill was talking about, were you advised to never powerlift again, never squat again, never deadlift again?
Yeah, so fast forward a little bit, I kind of barely eked my way through a couple of meets. I still was able to win and place in the top two at every meet. Every meet I've ever done, I've never finished out of the top three, but later on in my career, I never finished out of the top two. So I was able to, stay competitive with the best in the world. But as my deadlift started to regress from an 800 into the low sevens, I knew something was off. And the day-to-day pain got to be something that got my attention, because before, let me clarify, I didn't have really much day-to-day pain. It would only be when I lifted. But it became more and more cumulative with bad loading all the time, with bad movement, not being an athlete 24/7. My poundage is getting heavier, upwards of 1,100 pounds and 800 pounds on the deadlift. So everything became cumulative, and it was time to go in for an MRI. So once I got the MRIs, I noticed I had some real damage done. That's when I started seeking out some surgery from 3 or 4 different surgeons. And I was instructed that I would need a spine fusion. It was imminent regardless. Another surgeon wanted to do a little bit of a disc snip and tuck, micro discectomy. And one other one said he would not work on me unless I promised to quit lifting. At no time was any kind of suggestion to drop some weight, to get healthier, to move better, to treat my spine better. The solution was simply, you're not going to lift anymore, which is, we're going to get into that in the gift of injury quite a bit. So that'll tell the whole story about the, I mean, I could have went and got a spinal fusion, which would have been really bad.
Yeah. That would have been rough. Interesting, man. What's your take on that? You know, a lot of the time, I mean, you hear this story so many times. You know, an athlete or anyone who's gone through a huge injury, like major compound injury, and has been told, "Well, you're done. No more training. You're done." And then athlete comes back and breaks records or does it. Like, what is your whole take on that?
Well, there's a few different components to that. Unfortunately, they have to kind of tell you that under their licensing that they have to advise people, hey, you could get really seriously hurt, so our professional recommendation to you is to stop doing what you're doing. They can't tell me to proceed ahead, so I get that part. Unfortunately, they do not have very much time to spend with each athlete or patient. It's a 15-minute window a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. I get that they have to look out for themselves and then in turn kind of look out for their patient in their allotted time, but there's a lot of holes with the Western approach to medicine for sure.
Yeah, and I guess it also does make sense to, I guess, give the worst news possible. That way, the only thing you can do is go up.
Yeah, what's kind of sad too is they don't have a. You would think a surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon or neurosurgeon would have a greater understanding of the human body, right? So you would think that, you know, a guy walks in who's an athlete, you know, you have the neurosurgeon here and myself sitting in the chair, you would think he'd look at me and say, well, how are you treating your body the other, you know, there's 168 hours in a week, I might train 10, 12 hours a week. What are you doing to the other 150? What are you doing during the 150 plus hours the rest of the week? Are you being good to your body? Are you doing good therapy? Are you moving well? You're a big guy. Are you abusing your spine? Let's look at some of those things first before we go down the path of surgery. But they don't have time to assess that. And unfortunately, as weird it is coming from someone who's uneducated like me, they don't have the education and their training to do that. And that's, you know, that's kind of odd coming from someone who did not go to school, but it's the truth. They don't have the understanding. Dr. McGill talks about in back mechanic that when you have a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail after time. So all they have is their scalpel and their surgical tools. They don't have the thinking outside the box, you know, as an option for them because they get paid by cutting on people.
That was exactly what I was going to say. It was like, maybe they do have the knowledge and some are, but let's face it, it comes down to this,
right?
Money. It's that is their job, essentially. It's not to help you squat again. It's not to, they make their money cutting people open. That's it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Absolutely. And I see what you said about, you know, saying a guy doesn't have education and saying that they don't know enough. Now, we find this divide, like as trainers, and you'll probably maybe agree with me, there's some physical therapists out there, same deal. Like they have a doctorate in physical therapy, but yet there's people that come to my gym where I work that leave the PT office and are like, my back keeps spasming. They just tell me not to do anything. Just tell me to relax and ice it and heat it. But it's just a divide of performance, the rehab, like post-surgery, and then it's like after you get out of PT, it's like, all right, cool, go back to what you were doing. And I've worked in PT clinics where people are like, hey, 6 months from now, I'm coming back getting my other hip done. Like, it's like
Right.
it's cool or something. I don't know. It's weird.
The problem is, unfortunately, you watch some of these physical therapists try to do any kind of athletic movements like a squat or a deadlift. They don't have a clue. And much like a doctor, they have to cover such a broad area, which is the human body, that they're not really good at anything. They're just kind of okay and have a general knowledge of the different parts of the body. And a lot of them have no idea how to heal a back or rehab a back. It's not just due to their instruction being not thorough enough. There's a lot of things to cover. So they might be really good with the foot or the knee, but have no idea about the neck and the back. So we see that a lot. And yeah, that's a lot of school. That's 8 years plus of school to not really know too much. So just because someone's going to physical therapy is not a guarantee for success, unfortunately.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Make it a little transition here. We mentioned a little bit before from your book, your 5 principles to strength.
Right.
So I just kind of want to go over those and summarize those, and according to you, what those 5 main principles are.
5 main principles. You need phases of training. Not everything can be a pre-contest approach or an off-season. You can't just redline indefinitely, because you will fall apart. It may be 6 weeks, it may be 10 weeks, it may be 10 months for some freaks. But eventually your body will start falling apart. You will regress. It's just how the body works. Nothing is linear, like we established earlier. A custom and comprehensive warm-up is key. So what could be good for you warming up could be your undoing, and vice versa. So I have 4 parts of it. You always want to break a sweat before you get under a bar. You want to stabilize the core, right? So McGill Big 3 are a must for both cumulative and acute stiffness. So over time, that stiffness will stay with you. And just doing them, it will stay, at first, it'll stay with you about 4 hours, it shows. But over time, you do them every day, you'll be able to get away with a little bit more, and it'll become cumulative like everything else. C is greasing the groove for the day with a specialized movement. For instance, if you're squatting, maybe some goblet squats to kind of grease your hips up a little bit, or bench press some push-ups or band flies, so on and so forth. And then D is possibly, besides the core stability and breaking a sweat, well, it's all important, but D is just taking an empty bar and greasing the groove with whatever movement you're doing that day. So if you're starting with squat, empty bar squats, bench, same thing, rows, deadlifts, whatever. Just going through the motion with an empty bar is good for your brain, it's good for your body. You start creating that mind-muscle connection, and you want it to be pristine and nice, just like you will with your heavier weights. Perfect form, not sloppy, not spastic. I have a lot of people ask me, well, what 2 things? I don't want to do 4. I'm not going to do 4. What 2 things should I do? And it's always core stability and then greasing the groove with empty bar. But that's a specialized question, so not everyone do all 4 is my answer to them.
Right. Definitely do all 4.
Yeah. Another major component of the 10-20 life approach is form. We have 5 basic form cues that I teach at all of my seminars that I do, but they're not going to apply to everyone because all of our leverages are a little bit different. Our injury history, there's so many things that I can't say you have to be doing all 5 of these, but what we found is at least 3 of these cues apply to everybody, whether it's on the squat, gripping the floor and solidifying, using a hip hinge. If someone's got shorter femurs, they're not going to need a hip hinge as much as someone with longer femurs, things like that. But in each section, I have a very thorough top to bottom form section that covers these little 5 main cues and way more top to bottom. Customized assistance movements are a big one, and that's what I talked about before that sets my approach apart from a lot of people's, where there's good ideas out there, there's great templates, but the problem is what happens when you run these templates a couple of times. Assistance work is what builds the squat, bench, and the deadlift. So you're not going to conquer sticking points by just benching more, squatting more, deadlifting more. You need to go and attack the weaknesses, which could be muscular imbalances or positioning imbalances or a whole host of things. And then the last thing, which would be number 5, is philosophy and mindset, being an athlete 24/7. And one of the biggest things that I learned once I left the University of Waterloo in 2013 was moving well and being good to my body. You know, we talked about my back being battered. It was in really bad shape. L5S1 was split like someone took a hatchet to it. It was just in terrible shape. Had no disc in L5S1, no disc in L4, L5. Had end plate fractures everywhere. You know, you'll see the picture of my spine. It was terrible. Just by moving better and giving my body time to heal on its own, we're going to have the before and after images and MRI in this new book, Gift of Injury, with Dr. McGill, that shows just by moving well and callousing the area over time with specific protocol that Dr. McGill gave me, makes the not just feel better, but makes the MRI look a lot better too. And you'll be able to see where the bone actually filled in and my disc came back. So this will be an interesting thing.
Wow.
And a lot of that was achieved by moving well. You know, if you're flexion intolerant, not sitting in flexion. If you're flexion intolerant, not bending over to tie your shoes every day. Little things like that become cumulative and was part of my undoing with my spine, 100%.
Wow. So you mentioned we've mentioned Dr. Stuart McGill a few times already. And
right.
I know you got a book coming out, and we're not going to get too in-depth into that because we're going to have you both back, which is going to be awesome. But if you can describe how you heard about him, how you found out when the pain got bad, you're like, that's it, I need to see a specialist. And if you just go into who he is and how you guys met.
Sure. So 2013, I kind of hit the rock bottom. My deadlift was regressing like I got into earlier, and I started seeking out surgeons to kind of fix it. I was under the impression, like a lot of people, that think the surgeon will go in and magically remove your pain generator and you'll be great, and then you can continue on moving bad and abusing your body. That's not how it works, and that's why I know a lot of people that have had back surgery. They don't just have one surgery, they have multiple surgeries because they don't change the cause, they just treat the symptoms. So after pursuing surgery a little bit, I had a friend refer to me to Dr. McGill, and I looked him up, and I sent him my imaging, and he said that, Brian, for you and for most people, I don't recommend surgery because you have about 7 different causes of pain that they're not likely to cut all of them out just by surgery. And that kind of started the relationship there. Within a month, I was up at the University of Waterloo, and he pointed out a lot of my flaws, some of them simple, some of them not so simple. And he basically told me flat out that you're done. Dr. McGill told me that I'd used up all of my athleticism, which we all have a limited amount, limited capacity, right? And he said, I can get you out of pain, but you're not going to be able to tolerate load, 400 or 500 pounds, much less 1185 again. And I said, well, I'm telling you now that when I get pain-free, I'm going to want to come back. And he kind of looked at me and realized that he was in for a negotiation. Because he basically said, okay, well, once you get pain-free, let's talk about it. And who knows, maybe we end up writing a book on it. Here we are.
That's crazy.
Damn, that's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mic drop.
Boom.
Yeah. So it was definitely not an easy process starting over, because I had to literally not load my spine for 3 months. And then when I did start back, my last official squat was 1147 earlier that year, and here I am starting with the 55-pound bar from zero, from total scratch. So one thing that I tell the younger lifters that have a shoulder strain or a calf tweak or a glute, pulled, they say, I can't take time off. Well, the problem is, especially pertaining to the back, if your ego is too big to take time off, you're not going to get healthy. Some people will be able to fight through a minor back injury, but when it comes to nerve pain, it's not just a matter of being tough and pushing through it. I don't care if you're having nerve root blocks, facet injections, you're taking painkillers, anti-inflammatories. If your injury is substantial, you will not push through that. Your body, and in particular your brain, your fuse box, will not allow your body to push through that. You will eventually hit the wall, which I did, and that was my breaking point when I couldn't push through it anymore. So the people out there that think that, oh, you're just being a pussy when you hurt your back, yeah, some people might be being a pussy for sure, but if you have imaging to back up your pain, and there's certain pain triggers that are starting to refer nerve pain down your leg with a lumbar injury, then you're not just going to be able to tough that out. It's going to get worse, and eventually you're going to be in a bad position like I was.
Gotcha. Yeah, can't train if you're hurt, and if you can't train, you can't get stronger.
Availability supersedes ability. You can have the most talent in the world, but if you're on the shelf, it does not matter. And I always go back to the analogy of Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was probably the most talented athlete that we've ever seen. And I was young when he was coming up. How old are you guys?
28.
29, yeah.
Yeah, so I was, Bo Jackson was one of the first big athletes that you saw mainstream popularity and Nike, Bonos, and everything. Have you guys seen the 30 for 30 on ESPN with Bo Jackson?
Absolutely.
Did you see the part where he said he didn't lift weights?
Yep.
Because his gym looked like it hadn't been used yet, and he's like, "Bo, what's up?" He goes, "I've never lifted weights." Well, some people, most people, all people that are not Bo Jackson will not be able to look like that, perform like that, and be that kind of an athlete.
Yeah.
But Bo only lasted 3 or 4 years, and he was done. So everyone has a limited amount of athleticism, and no matter how good you are, an injury can stop you in your tracks. And then you have the opposite side of the spectrum where someone not quite as talented as Bo Jackson at a younger age coming through, like someone like a Tom Brady who was third string in college, but they peak later in life because they're available to prevail.
Yeah.
They're available, they're injury-free to be the best quarterback of all time, even though they were not projected to be that. They were drafted really late. They didn't even start at the University of Michigan. Next thing you know, there's 4 Super Bowls later, multiple MVPs, every record known to man pretty much that isn't held by Brett Favre. And here you go. He has my vote for the best quarterback of all time, and it's hard to make an argument against him.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Absolutely. Like, one thing I've heard is, like, it doesn't matter if you bench 500. Like, if you hurt, your bench is now 0.
Right.
Like, it does. Yeah, cool. You bench 500. Now you're hurt. Now it's. So what's the point? If you could just make little increments throughout life, like, imagine if you put 5 pounds on your squat consistently for like 5 years, every week or something.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it worked, where you can make small gains over time. And, there's another point to the Brady deal is he was the backup quarterback in New England, right? Because the guy got hurt, Bledsoe got hurt, he had the opportunity to shine. He wasn't even a starter in the NFL.
I know.
So availability supersedes ability no matter where you are. But if you are available, you can improve and get better over time, and there's no better illustration than Tom Brady with both the college aspect and the pro aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there, Brian. That was definitely awesome. We really enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, dude.
It's been an honor. Look forward to seeing you guys here soon. I'll talk with Stu about doing the podcast with you guys, and we'll really get heavily into gift of injury, what it's about, how others can benefit, and then the meat and potatoes of the whole story and what the book is going to help you with.
Definitely.
So last thing, anything you want to plug, your book, your Instagram, go ahead, whatever you want to plug.
So you can find me on Facebook, bcarroll81, Instagram, Brian Carroll81. Check us out at poweractstrength.com. That's my website where we have a lot of content that runs parallel with the 1020 Life philosophy. 1020 Life's available at poweractstrength.com as well as Amazon. And be looking out this summer for the gift of injury by Dr. Stuart McGill and Brian Carroll coming soon. Thanks for having me, guys.
Can't wait.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Later, Brian.
All right, Brian. Thank you, man. Take care.
Have a good one.